Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to continue my analysis of the British local election results by considering the various ways in which the main parties are and will spin things in their favour. The election is over, although the results are still coming in, but the battle for controlling the narrative has only just begun. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. Also, link in the description below to Max Robespierre's channel, where I will be appearing in a live stream this Sunday morning. So, there were lots of parties involved in the local elections around Scotland, Wales and some bits of England. But as the focus is on these results in the terms of what it might mean for the next general election, I'm going to focus on Labour, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems. This is not a video to discuss what it means for rubbish collections. And although there are still seats not declared yet, there are enough barometer areas that they've got their results in to say this was a very, very bad one for the Conservatives. Boris Johnson said that it was proof that he needed to keep going ahead with his agenda. Now, this is not the first time he's done this. Claimed an electoral loss means that he should keep doing what he's doing. I mean, all right. I can live with a Conservative Party that keeps doing what makes voters madder and madder. And despite the crushing losses, I'm not yet seeing reports from Tory MPs suggesting that it's time to boot him out now. Maybe they were taken in by that crap in the Telegraph about the Tories being on for losing 600 seats. It was ludicrous. I saw a poll, rather more sensible one, that suggested there were about 550 Tory seats that were being seriously contested. Bear in mind, they only had about 1,800 altogether for these local elections this week. Roughly a third of them were contested, seriously contested. So you couldn't have actually got to 600 lost seats, even if every single one of those under pressure was lost. But also, when you've got a load of seats that are being contested, that it could go either way, they never all go one way. Of course, the Conservatives were going to retain a lot of hotly contested seats. They were also going to make gains. They have done gains. They have made gains in places. But the net loss is huge. It's so bad. They're having to use the Brexit defence by saying, well, it's not as bad as some made-up spurious predictions said it would be. No, but it is as bad as these sensible predictions said it would be, isn't it? And never mind predictions anyway, because actually notoriously tricky with local elections where you've only got like a handful of people voting for some seats. I mean, there are some places where someone stubs their toe in the morning and then they just decide not to bother going out and voting after all while they tend to their ouchie. And that can make the difference. But predictions aside, look at the results so far. Do these look not that bad for the Conservatives? Is it at all possible to make that assessment? But anyway, on to how some of the main parties are trying to spin things. Going to look at the Conservatives first of all. There were two things that stood out for me, in terms of reactions from some Conservatives. The first was a series of Tory council leaders complaining that they were being punished for the behaviour of the party in Westminster. Now, there is an extent to which you have sympathy with this, because there are councillors that are very hard-working. They sacrifice their time. They don't get paid like, MPs, but then you have to ask yourself, why did those people who have been punished become councillors in the first place? Or how did they? By benefiting from the party machine, by getting votes from people who were not voting for that candidate, didn't even know who you were. They voted for the party you represented. Tory candidates this week have been trying to con the public. They had local Conservatives in the box for party instead of Conservative Party. An attempt to hoodwink by slightly disguising their allegiance. Not too much, because they still wanted dyed-in-the-wool Conservatives voting for them, but just a little bit for the swing voters. If they're so ashamed of their party, and they bloody well should be, then they had the option of leaving and standing as an independent. If they think the local people recognise their great work as councillors, they could have done that. They didn't. Now, I'm not saying they should have done that, but you can't have it both ways. If you stand under a party's banner, you do so in the good times and the bad. And the party's fortunes will swing. That is politics. So my thought to this is that, yes, They are being punished because the National Party is poorly run right now, and some of these councillors will have been working very hard, very diligently. You know, some of them will. I mean, it's usually a case of like half the councillors in any particular area are trying their best and half of them are just on the take. But, you know, some of them will be working hard. But they didn't complain, did they, about the party machine or the Westminster Party when they were benefiting from it? So they can stop whining as far as I'm concerned. Now, the second remarkable reaction, and this is, I think, where some may go with it, was from someone reported to say that Labour's gains in London will just show working class voters that Labour is the party of the metropolitan elite now. As if the Conservatives losing councils all over the capital can be given a positive spin. But I bet they run with it. It might be trickier to apply that spin when you consider the seats Labour is gaining in Scotland, but also other parts. I'll get onto those. You know, like Wakefield. Labour have taken Wakefield back. There's a by-election there soon. One of the red wall seats that went to the Tories at last election. Council went to the Tories as well. Labour have got the council back. But what are we supposed to say? You know, are Labour the party of the Scottish elite as well? You know, are Labour the party of the Sunderland elite? Because the Tories were supposed to take Sunderland and didn't. That's where the predictions there. Are they the party of the Wakefield elite? The Lib Dems are on much stronger ground with their take on things. They've done really well. Now, in my preview video this week, I did say that the seats up for grabs this week were not generally the ones Labour are targeting for the general election. But it did include a lot of crossover for the Lib Dems. This was a big test for them, and Ed Davey has been able to talk about real momentum. He cited the by-election wins in safe Tory seats last year, and now his party's made major gains in very similar areas. Because it's not just about councils flipped. There are only so many of those. It's about shoring up your strength, like take Richmond upon Thames. The Lib Dems already control that council, right? But now they have almost the entire thing. You go along to a council meeting there now and it's going to be like a Lib Dem conference. The Conservatives lost 10 of the 11 councillors they had there. They've got one left. One lone Tory councillor who will now go by the name of Billy No Mates at council meetings because they'll have no one to talk to. You know, there were very few councils where the Conservatives made gains at the expense of the Lib Dems. There were plenty where it was the other way around. Now that gives them a strong platform to take on not only the Tiverton and Honiton by-election coming up, but any general election that may be on the horizon. Also, there's another Tory MP under investigation. So we know we've got two by-elections coming up. One because the Tory MP sexually assaulted a minor. Another one because he looked at tractor porn. Oh, there's another one that might be happening as well. There's the one who tried to claim that those lines of cocaine were dandruff. Oh no, it's not cocaine, it's dandruff. I like to line up dandruff, you see, on the back of a tin tray. Now, it is just possible that the committee investigating him won't believe him. And that might be another by-election up for grabs. Somerset this time. Oh, what's that? Lib Dems seem to have made gains in Somerset as well. How interesting. And they can demonstrate a real sense of momentum, like I say. Huge rallying call for those moderate Conservatives who want the Tories to be kicked out, but won't go as far as supporting Labour. There may have been a lot of Conservative voters that didn't go to the polls. They didn't go and vote for anyone because they can't bring themselves to vote for the Conservatives. In general elections, you often feel, oh, well, there's no point in going voting for the Lib Dems because they can't win here. The Lib Dems are showing, yeah, we can. Look what happened last year. We won 2 safe Tory seats. They might win another one very soon. They might win a second one this year if the MP with the lines of dandruff has to step down. You know, but so those sort of voters, the ones who can't bring themselves to support the current Conservatives, but also can't bring themselves to vote Labour, the Liberal Democrats are presenting themselves there. As for Labour, they'll be proudly displaying their major scalps for them. The main one being Westminster. Labour may well have formed Westminster governments in the past, albeit far too infrequently, but they have never held Westminster Council. Ever. Huge. Tories are downplaying it, of course they are. When the dust settles, it may well be down to, like I said, lots of Conservative voters just simply staying at home. But that voter apathy works too. It's disappointing, but it's what it is. It's what sunk Labour in 2019. the tables could well be turned for the Conservatives now. And this is strong ammunition for Labour. Someone tried to suggest that Labour should not make such a big deal out of it because London is not the rest of the country. In other parts of England, they didn't make such great gains. Yeah, their great successes this week have essentially been London and Scotland. I mean, that's because they did well in other parts in 2018. Bear in mind, Labour did not do at all badly in the local elections 2018, the last time these ones came up for grabs. And you can't flip a seat you already hold. If they won it in 2018, all they can do is retain it. They can lose it, or they can retain it. You know, their good showing in parts of England in 2018 was a difficult defensive job this year, and their weak showing in Scotland and London in 2018 presented the opportunities this year as well. Remember that the areas that Labour are targeting with their campaigns are not largely the places that held local elections this year. Those are mostly up for grabs next year. But when you take a seat that has been held by the Tories for decades, or even forever, of course you're going to crow about it, because you can say to other voters, look, people are sick of the Tories and they think it's time for Labour to take over again. Consider how much Tories were stoked at winning seats that Labour had held for decades and how deflating it was for Labour. Well, now the tide is turning. Labour are doing the same to them. Because the gains weren't just in London or Scotland anyway. Parts of the north saw Labour losses, but other areas saw gains. Cumberland, the Tories lost 2/3 of their councillors and Labour picked them up. They're now in control of that council. Technically, it's a newish council after boundary changes, but the gains and losses were still actual councillors. And then Rossendale in the northwest of England. Now, this wasn't a big swing. It wasn't a big swing. It was enough to take the council from slightly under the Conservatives' control to slightly in Labour's control. But it still goes from Conservative control to Labour control. And that is a target area for the general election. It's the sort of area where Labour needed to show gains in order for their general election strategy to be working. Because there are parts of the country they're not particularly focusing on. But there we are. Anyway, I'll hopefully be talking about the Stormont elections Saturday, and then I have a live stream on this channel Saturday evening and with Max Robespierre's channel on Sunday morning. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button, maybe even click on the join button if you'd be interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.